which is also known as the BZA. I am acting chairman of the BZA, Terry Russell. The board is made up of 5 citizens appointed by the Arlington Circuit Court. In addition to myself, we have Charles Smith to my right, Inta Malice to the far right, Judy Freshman to my far left, and Paul Melnick to my left. Also present is the professional staff, including Deputy Zoning Administrator Andrew Noxon, who serves as Secretary to the Board of Zoning Appeals, Norma Cozart, the Zoning Administrator, Clifton Hogan, Assistant to the Zoning Administrator, and Cheryl Williams, our Zoning Technician. We thank you for being here and extend a warm welcome. To avoid disruptions, we ask that you please turn your cell phones or pagers off or put them in the silent mode. On the front table up here, you will find copies of the staff report for each case before us this evening. I recommend that if you have not yet seen that report for your case, that you get a copy and review it before your case is called. The board's powers are prescribed in the Code of Virginia and are set out in further detail in the county's zoning ordinance adopted by the county board. The Board of Zoning Appeals does not have the power to rezone property or to amend the regulations set forth in the ordinance. That authority rests with the county board. The Board of Zoning Appeals does have the authority to do 3 things. We can approve use permits that allow modifications of placement requirements for structures on 1- and 2-family lots where there are no options in the zoning ordinance to allow such modifications. We can grant variances from the specific requirements of the zoning ordinance, and we can decide appeals of decisions of the zoning administrator. When approving use permits, the Board of Zoning Appeals may impose conditions that it deems necessary in the public interest, including limiting the duration of the use permit. In order to approve a use permit, the law requires that the board find that the proposal meet conditions and that the use permit will not adversely affect the health or safety of persons residing in the neighborhood, will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to property or improvements in the neighborhood, and will not be in conflict with the purposes of the master plans and land use and zoning related policies of the county. To do this, the BZA shall consider whether the modification will promote compatibility of development with the surrounding neighborhood because the structure's overall footprint size and placement are similar to the structures on the property surrounding the lot in question, and whether the modification will help preserve natural landform, historical features, and/or significant trees and foliage. When granting variances, the board must determine that the strict application of the ordinance would produce undue hardship, that the hardship is not generally shared by other properties in the same zoning district, and that the authorization of the variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property, and that the character of the district will not be changed by the granting of the variance. A Virginia Supreme Court ruling requires that a variance cannot be granted unless the effect of the zoning ordinance, as applied to the piece of property under consideration, would, in the absence of a variance, interfere with all reasonable beneficial uses of the property taken as a whole. When deciding appeals of the zoning administrator, the board must determine if the zoning administrator acted correctly. This evening, cases will be called and a brief staff report and recommendation will be given. Following that, board members will ask any questions of the staff they may have. Next, applicants or their representatives will be given an opportunity to make comments to support the application or appeal. If they choose to make a comment, they must come forward to the podium so that their comments can be recorded for the record. Next, all speakers for the item will be called. Speakers must fill out a speaker's slip, which is available on the table in the front of the room. After we hear from speakers for and against the proposal, the board may permit the applicant a brief opportunity to clarify any points. The board may ask questions of any speakers, but does not permit and will not condone any cross-examination or direct questioning by others. When you've completed your speaker slip, please give it to Ms. Williams over there to my right. We have deemed the following time limits for speakers to be sufficient. 5 minutes for applicants for use permits and variances. For use permits and variances, we have deemed 3 minutes for representatives of organizations and 2 minutes for individuals as sufficient. After the board has gathered all the information they need and discussed the item, it will decide the matter by voting on a motion duly made and seconded. A majority is needed to approve any motion. Any appeal from the decision of this board must be made to the circuit court in accordance with state law. After your case of interest is heard, you're welcome to stay for the balance of the session or leave at your convenience. Again, thank you for being here this evening. Would the secretary please call the first case?
Thank you and good evening. Our first case tonight is going to be a deferral. It's case number V-10970-14-UP-2. This is a use permit request by Benjamin Moncars and Catherine Otis to permit a setback of 15.2 feet to the porch and the two-story addition from the 20th Road North right-of-way instead of 25 feet is required, and 12.6 to the porch, one-story rear addition, and two-story addition from the North Randolph Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet is required, and also to permit a structure in excess of 2.5 stories within 25 feet of a street right-of-way. It's for the construction of a new front porch, a new two-story addition above the existing main building footprint, a new one-story rear addition, and a new right-side egress window well. It's in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 4054 20th Road North.
The applicant has requested deferral. Do I have any questions or a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Smith.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution to defer the subject use permit to the April 15, 2015 BZA hearing.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Ms. Freshman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries.
The next case tonight is V-10988-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Bernard Ham to permit a setback of 5.5 feet to the barbecue and chimney from the left side property line instead of 8 feet as required. It's to maintain an existing barbecue and chimney in the left side yard. It's in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 1908 North Cameron Street.
Do we have any questions of the staff? If not, is Mr. Ham here or someone represented?
Yes, Bernard Ham.
Sir, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, the reason I'm putting here, requested this application is that my father had built this barbecue pit about 20 years ago. He owned both properties, and since his passing, I would just like to keep that in remembrance of him. That's basically it. All
right. Maybe some of the members of the board would have questions for you or the staff. Do we have any? Do we have any speakers on this case, Ms. Williams? Thank you. There are no speakers, no questions.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Freshman.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution approving the use permit V-10988-15-UP1, subject to conditions.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Malice. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, the next case is V-10989-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Laurel Delaney Smith and Timothy Smith to permit a setback of 13.4 feet from the North Brandywine Street right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. So the construction of a new portico above an existing front stoop. This is in the R27 zoning district on a premises known as 2061 North Brandywine Street.
Any questions of the staff?
I just like to know if this is a record number of signatures. It certainly is for my tenure. 74.
Thank you, Ms. Freshman. Could we hear from the applicant, please, on this case?
Yes, thank you. This is just a fairly modest piece of construction just to cover a portico
simply to cover an existing step that was built onto the structure when it was built in the 1930s. And yes, my wife did canvass the entire Gleewood Village and get every signature she could get.
So you are Timothy Smith, correct, for the record? Thank you very much. Yes.
Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I too would like to congratulate your wife. If she's not a community organizer, she certainly has a future as one.
Any questions for the staff or for the applicant? Entertain a motion.
Motion.
Mr. Melnick.
Okay. In case V1098915 UP1, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the resolution granting the use permit, subject to the conditions listed in the resolution.
Second.
It's moved by Mr. Melnick and seconded by Mr. Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, next case. This is a withdrawal request. This is V-10990-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Aaron Donahoe and Christopher Maxey to permit a setback of 13 feet to the eave, 14.3 feet to the wall of the existing two-story home from the 19th Street North right-of-way instead of 25 feet is required. And this is to permit structural alterations to a non-conforming building. It's in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 1827 North Van Buren Street.
This is a recommend. Is this the one we're withdrawing?
Correct. One of three.
Then I should call for a motion, correct?
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you. Mr. Smith.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached motion to withdraw the use permit in light of the fact that the zoning ordinance has been changed and makes this a moot case.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Freshman. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
All right. The next case is V-10991-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by John and Lauren Harnischberger to permit a setback of 3.1 feet to the wall of the existing home from the right side property line instead of 8 feet as required. This is to permit structural alterations to a non-conforming building. This is in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 1549 North Edgewood Street. And this is actually to permit the removal of a portion of a wall so it doesn't count under that new ordinance amendment that just happened a few weeks ago.
Have any questions of the staff? Could we hear from the applicant, please?
Hi, my name is Lauren Harnischberger, and we are doing what I would consider a modest remodel to our 1923 bungalow in Lion Village. And in order to construct the one-story remodel, which is going to be on the conforming side of the house, we are planning to do just some minor structural work on the non-conforming wall just to make sure that the addition attaches in appropriately to the existing house. So the entire south side of our house, of course, is non-conforming given that it was built in 1923.
Any questions of the applicant?
Motion?
Madam Chair, I'm Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Our previous chair was for a couple of years was a woman. I'm sorry. The comments from neighbors, I don't see any, and the staff report indicates that there aren't any. Had you done any outreach to your neighbors to discuss what you wanted to do and showed them any plans and got any buy-in?
Yes, I spoke with both neighbors on either side of the house, and I've shown them the plans, as well as the across the street neighbor. The rear neighbor I went over to their house a couple of times to knock on the door because I don't know them, and wasn't able to ever find them when they were at home. But both neighbors on either side, particularly Catherine Wang, who is on the non-conforming side. In fact, she came over last night, and we were talking over the plans, and she was very much in favor of it. So,
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hammer.
I have a speaker slip from your architect, too. Do you want your architect to speak, or? Okay, the architect is here. Name is Stephen Crawford. If the board members have a question for the architect.
Mr. Chairman? I
Ms.
think
Freshman.
because of the nature of having to partially remove some of the wall in order to replace it, but it's staying in the same exact place, correct?
That is correct, yes.
So apart from having to make that change, you would have not had to.
Correct.
Have this-
We just, because the house is so old, we just want to make sure that there's no rotting wood or anything like that, that it's just
Okay.
structurally sound before we do the remodel on the other side.
Good. I'm prepared to make a motion.
Ms. Freshman.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting use permit V-10991-15-UP1, subject to the conditions listed in the resolution.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Mr. Melnick. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the next case is also a withdrawal request. This is V-10992-15-UP-1, and this is a use permit request by Scott Carpenter to permit a setback of 4.4 feet to the eave and 5 feet to the porch from the left side property line instead of 8 feet as required. Also, an aggregate side yard of 14.7 feet instead of 18 feet is required. It's to permit structural alterations to an existing non-conforming left side enclosed porch as well as the main building. It's in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 708 South Adams Street.
This is a request to withdraw. May I have a motion, please?
Chairman, in the case V-0992-15-UP-1, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached motion to withdraw the use permit.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Malice and seconded by Mr. Smith. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
The next case is also a withdrawal for the same purpose. This is V-10993-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Linda Radford to permit a setback of 13 feet to the existing carport from the 22nd Street North right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. This is to permit structural alterations to a non-conforming left side carport. It's in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 5730 22nd Street North.
So motion, this is a request to withdraw.
Correct.
Motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Malice.
in the case V-10993-15-UP-1, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached motion to withdraw the use permit.
It's been moved by Ms. Malice, seconded by Ms. Freshman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
And our next case tonight is V-10994-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Ali Argel to permit a setback of 7.5 feet to the home from the rear property line instead of 8 feet as required, 9.2 feet to the porch eave and the eave of the home, and 10.5 feet to the wall of the home and porch base from the 19th Street North right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. This is for the construction of a new 1 1/2 story addition above the existing home, as well as an eave for that addition, and expansion of the existing basement below the existing home. This is in the R6 zoning district, premises known as 1828 North Underwood Street.
Members of the board have any questions for the staff? Then can we hear from the applicant, please? Is anyone here representing the applicant or the applicant here? Does the board have any members of the board have a suggestion as to what we do with this case absent an applicant?
Well, Mr. Chairman, my question to the applicant would have concerned the nature of the outreach that they'd done to determine whether there was support by the neighbors that would have been directly affected by this request, because the report indicates that there hasn't been received any indication that there was that kind of outreach. So, in the absence of the applicant, I'd ask that I'd move that we defer this at least to the end of the docket to give the applicant an opportunity, and if they don't come by the end of the docket, then to defer it to the next meeting.
All right, we've had a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Ms. Malice to move this item to the end of the cases for this evening. So once we have dispatched with the last case that's on the agenda already, we would move on to this one and deal with it at that time. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Then we have moved this case V10994, 15 UP1 to the end of the case list for this evening.
Okay, our next case tonight is V-10995-15-VA-1. This is a variance request by Frederick Sujat to permit a total lot coverage of 41.6% instead of 40% as permitted. It's for the construction of a new two-story right side addition. It's in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 5010 Washington Boulevard.
Do we have any questions of the staff?
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Malice?
My question has to do with just process. We have a second item with the same applicant. Do we take them sequentially, or do they relate to each other?
That depends on the board, whichever you'd like to do.
I believe they relate enough. I believe we can combine them. We can make separate motions if we need to, but it would give us the opportunity to hear from speakers on both the variance and the use permit at one time. So if that's the will of the board. Mr. Melnick?
Yeah, I just had a question, but we can take care of that first, man.
I can call the
Staff need to
second one
call
as
the
well.
second item.
Please.
Okay, the associated use permit is V-10995-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Frederick Sujat to permit a setback of 5 feet to the eave and 6 feet to the wall of the new two-story addition from the right side property line instead of 10 feet as required. Also, an aggregate side yard of 10 feet instead of 18 feet is required. It's for the construction of a new two-story right side addition. It's in the R6 zoning district on a premises known as 5010 Washington Boulevard.
Thank you. So then I would request that, do we have, you have a question, Mr. Melnick?
Yes. I had a question of staff. So in this, I've read it and I've seen the situation is in large measure the driveway causing the coverage problem. And I noticed in the report it says staff has suggested removing a portion of the large driveway in the front yard, in addition to adding a front porch and whatnot. But did staff have any particular ideas about, in light of the issue of the busy the busy road in the front and needing to be able to come out facing front? Did staff have any particular ideas about the driveway and the layout that would work or that would bring us into compliance?
We can't really suggest, how to mitigate that issue to them. It's on the applicant to really design something that works for them. I know there are some traffic issues, and Mr. Sujat has made us aware of those. But this is an issue of coverage. He could either reduce the size of the addition or do two other things to make this work and be by right, at least for lot coverage.
Okay.
Any other questions of the staff before I call the applicant?
Can I just follow
Ms.
up?
Malice?
So you have had a discussion with the applicant about the fact that there are options that he could
Correct.
pursue.
And we let him know that when he applied for the variance.
Okay.
Could we now please hear from the applicant on both of these cases?
Thank you for allowing me to present my application for both the variance and the use permit. And I assume that, do I just get the 2 minutes for both, or do I get a little bit more time because I have both?
You get 5 in any case.
Five.
But
Okay, all right. But
we can also ask you questions.
okay, good. And I don't think it'll take that much time. But so essentially what we're doing is we're building a modest addition on the house. It's an old house, old design. And so there are two things that basically we would like to do. We have a screened-in porch that came with the house back in, 1925. And so we want to expand that a little bit, make that first floor into a very small family room. And then the second floor would enable us to have the large bedroom connected to what would be a master bathroom. So that's what we're trying to do. And basically, the point here is that this is a very irregular lot. It's 3 sides. I don't know if I know there may be some irregular lots in Arlington, but this is probably very irregular, pie-shaped, and so we don't have much room to maneuver to try to do something. But this is something that we felt that we could do. Now, with respect to the 40%. What I would say is that we're only asking for 1.6% above the 40%, and we have, as you probably know, a horseshoe driveway, and the horseshoe is because we are right at the point where cars can come very rapidly. In fact, they narrow down. If you've been through Washington Boulevard crossing George Mason, the cars going east narrow together very quickly. And the cars can obviously be going very fast. Whether they're going legal or illegal doesn't really make any difference. If you're pulling out backwards, you don't have any time to maneuver if someone's coming fast. It's very dangerous. And in fact, we had put in, with actually the help of the county, another apron so that we could have a horseshoe driveway. So we have that. And it's a safety concern. So we definitely want to have that. But if we need to, we will be glad to cut off part of the pad area, part of the driveway area, if that will help. Because I don't think we need to cut off that much to get down to 1.6%. But I do have to say that taking out that driveway that we put in with the help of the county. And given the fact that it's a safety situation, we do want to keep that where we can come in, and then when we leave, we can leave front and look left and right and make sure as we get onto the 2 lanes of Washington Boulevard, where you have ambulances, you have buses, it's a pretty heavy traffic area, and sometimes it can be pretty fast. So we want to keep that horseshoe. So that's basically it with the variance. And then on the user permit, you may be aware, if you have the notes on this matter, that I was here in September of 1981, and I basically got I think it was called a variance at the time. Now they call it a user permit, but it's basically the same thing. They gave me 5 feet, and that's all I'm asking for is 5 feet, and basically that's it. I mean, we feel that it's going to be a very nice addition to Washington Boulevard. We're going to make that addition, as you've seen from the elevations, very much like the existing front of the house. It'll be coming out pretty much straight with the house, and it will be, increase the beauty and value, I think, of our property as well as the neighborhood. And a couple other things I was just going to say here is that we did get letters of approval from neighbors. Those are in the file. And then I also took plans to the association, met with the president, and also they have a fellow there, I forget his name right now, but he's an architect in Alexandria, but he lives in the neighborhood, and I showed him the plans, and they seemed to be fine with the plans. And so basically that's all I have to offer at this point.
Anyone have any questions of the applicant?
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Mouse?
You mentioned that in regard to the coverage, that scaling back some aspect of the driveway is possible. Do you have a specific idea of what you would propose to do?
Yes, well, what I'm thinking is we have a little pad there where you can park cars off of the horseshoe, and so we could bring that back from the fence. The neighbor, there's a fence on the property line that you might be able to see from the survey, and so we would just bring it forward a few feet, take that out, and I think that should take care of it.
And that's consistent with what staff had suggested in terms of remedying the situation?
Yes, the removal of up to 101 square feet will probably do it.
Yeah, I read the same staff report that I think you read, and I read their discussion about, you know, the degree of hardship that we're having to overcome, and it wasn't as compelling in the case of the coverage as it might be in some of the other aspects of.
I see, yeah. So, as you know, I just thought it was 1.6, and I thought from what the surveyor was telling me that the county, the zoning board, had permitted exceptions that were much greater than that recently, and so I figured, well, you know, maybe, you know, it just wouldn't be a problem, and but if it is, as I said, I'm willing to do what's needed to be done.
Mr. Chairman.
No problem.
Thank you.
Ms. Freshman.
I'm very familiar with this neighborhood in Washington Boulevard. It's one of my former neighborhoods. And I think that it's really important to have the kind of horseshoe driveway that they have so that they have some options. It's no question about the need for that. But I think the useful thing from the standpoint of meeting and not exceeding the coverage requirement is that there is a substantial pad off the driveway. If we didn't have that as an option, I think it might be a different situation. But there is a remedy that is not going to be too burdensome and still gives you the safety access from the driveway. So
Right,
that's good.
I totally agree.
I have a question.
Mr. Melnick?
Yeah, so from the drawings, it's hard to tell, you know, exactly how big this is, but is it big? I was wondering, is it big enough for, is it one car or two cars abreast on the pad?
You could put two cars on the pad,
Okay.
side by side. You know, they'd be kind of close, but you can put them in.
Yeah, and the correction you're talking about, would that leave enough space if you brought that back to, you know, have 40%? Would it be enough space for a car to drive in back of a parked car there?
Yeah, well, it would have to, you know, it would have to go around the horseshoe a little bit and then back in. That would be the best way to do it. You come in, let's say on the it would be the west side, the west apron, I call it, and then the pad is on the right, so you would just veer a little bit to the left around the horseshoe and then back in.
Yeah.
And that way, you know, if there was a car parked on the horseshoe, then you wouldn't have to worry about it. You could just back right into the pad.
Yeah, but if there was a car parked on the pad, would there be enough room for a second car then to drive up and then back in onto the pad?
Yes, you could pull a second one in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We have a speaker. We'd like to hear from the speaker now. Mr. Thomas Feely.
May I approach with a written statement?
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The clerk will do that, sure.
Okay, thank you for taking the time to hear my concerns. I've prepared some written information that I'd like to go over at a high level and certainly discuss this case a little bit further because I think it's very special in the configuration of the lot and how it adjoins the rear yards. So basically, I fully support making any home improvements. I object to this application specifically because I think there is a way to achieve what the owner is trying to achieve within the zoning requirements with a lesser impact to existing neighbors and to the benefit of the community overall. The existing triangular lot as it is does not have a rear line. It has already reduced side yard setbacks. And I directly feel that the proposed application will be substantial detriment to the Lot 10 property, which is my property. and it creates a concern for neighboring, establishing a neighborhood precedent for reduced side yard setbacks that abut to a neighbor's rear yard, and I'll show that in my first point. In the first table, if you look on page 1, the side use permit, the key point here I would like to note is that from my perspective and what I understand about the code, the applicant could meet the side yard setback requirement by moving the addition 4.6 feet forward. As I noted, the triangular lot is already accommodated with reduced side yard setbacks of 8.6 and 5 feet. So we're asking for another cutback that's quite substantial. If you see the image number 1, this is exactly how it aligns to the property. So the one in red is the subject property, 5010. You'll notice where the arrow points to is exactly where the impingement will further occur against the rear lot line of 1217, lot 10, which is my property. In this, so that 5-yard setback reduction on a 10-foot requirement is quite substantial in this case because there's essentially a 25-foot rear lot setback for most of the houses in this neighborhood. So I would be at a substantial detriment to see that reduction significantly further. I looked at the BZA cited encroachments in the immediate vicinity, and none are specifically comparable to this case. They are specific to rectangular lots where you have a side yard against the side yard. In those cases, I can understand it more, but in this case where you have a side yard abutting a rear yard, it's a little bit of a different application. Okay, yes, so all the cited lots are rectangular where a side yard abuts another side yard. 4 of the 6 properties are only one-story additions, and none of them have a side setback as small as 5 feet. I'd like to turn to page 2. This is with respect to the total lot coverage. In this one here, again, I think there are some options to do within by right to achieve exactly what he would like to achieve. Some of the approaches there that I note in the key points include moving it 4.6 feet forward, which is possible, and there are some other BZA alternatives that can be incorporated, or reduce the square foot area, which was proposed as one of their suggestions. And if that was done from the rear extension, perhaps that would help mitigate the side yard setback that goes against my rear yard. You'll see in the picture I've kind of done a mock-up of what the extension is going to look like from my backyard. And you'll see essentially it will take the house and take the progression of it completely along my rear yard directly within 5 feet. So essentially the majority of what I will see from my lot 10 view will now be a prominent 2-story towering house, as you see generally in the picture. One error I'd like to point out in the application, the proposed changes section in both notes that the total square foot of the extension is 176 square feet. That is incorrect. The extension is much larger. If you take everything and subtract off the existing porch that's there now, that's approximately 566 square feet minus 120 is about 447 square feet. Of the BZA proposed alternatives, only one of them, which reducing the square foot area of the extension, would help in the situation of the side yard reduction that will impinge upon my rear lot. Those cover kind of the two aspects of what I'm looking at from that perspective. Some of the impacts I see, I'd just like to hit them quickly. So the property value, I see this is lot 10 really bearing the burden of the setbacks that are being done. I'm concerned that the property value of the lot 10 will decrease as a result of what's being done. Certainly the 5010 property will increase based on the direct proximity to the rear yard. Most of the yards in this place are 25-foot yard setbacks, so I will become even further of a disadvantage based upon other properties that are surrounding me. The privacy, of course, will be impacted based upon, as you can see from the other picture, there'll be a lot more structure in place, a lot more direct overlooking of the backyard itself, kind of materially changing the property. And concerned also about the aesthetics. There are some open views to the trees and things that will go away. Last point I guess I'd just like to make before I just summarize is Others in my neighborhood have a concern about about this specific implementation of the use permit and lot coverage based upon the adjacent property impacts and setting a reduced and very small precedent for other properties within the surrounding neighborhood. Upon reviewing the applicant's plans with other neighbors, I have 11 signed. In the back of your document, there are 11 signed objections to and concerns to the existing property. They're not happy with what they perceive it will do to the neighboring community and precedent.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
I don't have any other speaker slips. If the board, then this item is with the board. Questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to hear from the applicant with respect to the neighbor's suggestion that the construction could be moved forward, thus minimizing the encroachment into the side yard that is his back lot. It's 8.6 right now, applicant seeking 5. I'm wondering why the applicant can't move it forward, and I'd like to hear from him on that matter.
Mr. Sujat?
Or his architect. Yes.
I have with me Mr. Don Schroeder, who helped me design this. And in terms of doing something different, moving the addition forward, that's something that we cannot do. And the reason for that is that we would, if you see what we have here, if we move forward at all, we're going to be going into that driveway, that horseshoe driveway. And not only that, if by building out, it's going to be a funny-looking building. It's going to be a funny-looking design. But more important than that is the way I have it configured in terms of how it relates to the first floor. And I did provide a first floor plan, my architect did, as so that you could see the circular pattern, going into the dining room from the family room, going into the parlor from the family room, and then also taking on the second floor that window out in the master bedroom, and making that into a door into a master bathroom. So, moving everything out is going to totally change the functionality of the addition, which would be beneficial to a home of that age, and it would match more the landscaping and contours of the home and the type of home, an old, like a farmhouse, stone home. And also it allows us to maintain that circular or horseshoe driveway, which is really mandatory for the safety of the ingress and egress into the property. And by the way, I, a couple of nights ago, spoke with Mr. Farley, and I explained to him that, if I was able to do something, I would, but in this circumstance, given all of the requirements and the situation, I just don't have any room. And again, it's because of this irregularly shaped property. I just don't have that much flexibility.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there, as I said, if you have any questions for my architect, is there anything that you wanted to say, Don?
Well, the only two very brief points. The addition is as far forward as it can be right now without encroaching into the driveway. The foundation wall of the addition at this point will be 1 foot from the driveway. I frankly have concerns that the excavator does not do anything to harm the driveway. To bring it any further out, basically, it's just not feasible from a practical standpoint. The other thing that I heard when this man was speaking, I couldn't heard him say something about 500 square feet or something. I did a quick calculation, but the footprint is roughly 288 square feet of the proposed addition, roughly 288.
Thank you.
Calculate it with me. And
That-
so I don't understand where.
Thank you very much. We have the drawings and we have the things that show us what's proposed, square footage,
Okay.
you know. Thank you very much for that. If you would fill out a speaker slip as if you had already, and then just bring it up to me as soon as you finish filling it out, and I'll make sure that it gets in the record packet. Ms. Freshman?
Have you considered doing what many people in this neighborhood have done, which is basically enclosing your screen porch and building above it? In other words, given the constraints of your lot, the shape of your lot, et cetera, that's a compromised position. I realize it's not as big an addition as you want, but it is something that maintains some of the lot separation, dwelling separations that is of concern to the neighbors.
Well, first of all, what I want to say is that that porch is very small, and it doesn't do what we want it to do. It doesn't have the circular flow into the dining room, into the parlor. It still is pretty small, and the building of that first floor and then the second floor to make it into an ample master bathroom, I'm going to need that size. I mean, the existing porch is just too small. The other thing I was going to say here is that the neighbor that extends really closer even to the addition had no objections to what we're doing. I have that in writing. It's with the staff here. Also, next door to us, on the other side, it's 50056 Washington Boulevard, and they didn't have any problems with that at all. And then Miss Lancaster across the street on Washington Boulevard didn't have any problems. And when I talked to the association, they didn't have any problems with it. So I really, to be honest with you, I don't see the issue from Mr. Farley's. Mr. Farley's got a house. He's got a decent-sized backyard that goes to the fence of my yard. If he's going to, see anything, maybe he'll see a little bit of the addition. If I built even an addition over the porch, he's still going to see that. And but it's going to be off in a distance. Furthermore, where the addition is the northwest corner of his property. He's got a big tree there, so I don't know what he can really see anyhow. And then he's got a big plastic fence, a fairly high plastic fence in his backyard. So I just don't really understand what the problem is. If he'd like me to put some trees or bushes in, I'd be glad to do that.
Okay.
As I said, I just don't see where that is a problem. And in terms of what we need to do, this is what we've presented.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll if you'll just maybe stay up front, then if we have more questions, we'll...
Oh, you have more questions?
Sir?
I'm sorry, you said you had more questions?
I said if we do.
Oh, if you do, okay.
Thank you. Mr. Melnick, you had a question?
No, it was answered.
I have a question. I'm sorry, if I may. Drew, I need to know what the distance is. It's not shown on the plat with the proposed addition from the corner of what I'll call the family room to the property line.
So the other corner?
The
other little jagged edge there?
What you show there is what we need to grant a use permit for, which is the corner of this small part that takes you into the dining room.
What I scaled before, I think, was the same, just about exactly the same thing they have in the other corner, looking at about 6 feet to the eave, 5 feet to
okay, so
the
it's
wall
the
of it.
same. It's
about
not
the same exact setback. Mm-hmm.
So
that's why the
that
surveyor didn't put a
corner,
dimension on.
Even if the small roomlet, I'll call it, that connects to the dining room were removed, it wouldn't, the family room addition would not become as a matter of right.
Correct.
But if it were, I don't, moved forward enough or reduced in width enough to get to, it would still have to be 10 feet, wouldn't it?
That's correct.
Okay, not 8. Thank you, I just needed that. Ms. Malice?
I guess I'm sympathetic to both parties, but I do think that this is an impact on Mr. Feely's property that needs to be considered. I'm sympathetic to both sides, but I think there needs to be another solution here, because I do think that this addition brings more massing into the backyard, and the tree part, and it's difficult because there's an expectation that Mr. Feely's backyard neighbor also has a setback as deep as his, and that's what really gives the separation from the homes. It's not up to one of the parties to provide the separation. It's really up to both parties to contribute to that. I don't know if Mr. Feely has thought about other options, such as landscaping, and whether those would be feasible or helpful as part of some kind of a solution. And maybe we can explore that with him if others have the same concerns as I do.
Other comments or questions?
I guess, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Smith?
if Mr. Sujak were to be able to get to near the current encroachment of 8.6, I would be more comfortable. I know that doesn't give him the second, the flow through, the circular flow that he's seeking, and I can see how it impacts, the second story also. I'm somewhat sympathetic also to Mr. Feely and the massing on the rear. And I think also what is substantial to me is the amount of outreach that Lot 10, Mr. Feely has done, which indicates while there is support by some for Mr. Sujak's proposal, it appears as if there is a significant amount of opposition that exceeds the support.
Other comments or questions? Is anybody prepared to make a motion? We have 2 items here.
Well, Mr. Chairman, on the variance request, I think we've heard already from the applicant that he's willing to take, to reduce the size of the pad to, so that he won't need a variance of lot coverage. So I'd move that we adopt the staff report denying the request for a variance as with respect to lot coverage.
I'll second.
A motion has been made to deny the variance request by Mr. Smith and seconded by Mr. Melnick. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we have the use permit.
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Malice?
I think that a solution can't be crafted sitting here. And I don't know the applicant's interest in finding a different solution, whether they are interested in some more time to come up with a different alternative, or if they would prefer that we just vote up or down on their proposal right now.
We could certainly ask him. Mr. Sujat, could you come forward? One of the board members has wondered if you would consider deferring the case for some time to consider a redesign of this and a different proposal that might still need some relief through the use permit process? Or would you rather that we voted this up or down depending upon?
Well, I guess my question is, I mean, I've been in the zoning office, a couple of times, dropping off papers, actually pulling back the scale on what I was doing a little bit, and it takes a long time to get to the board here, and I really don't know what the board is requesting that I do. What kind of options they have in mind. Quite frankly, I don't see what Mr. Farley's concerns are. I have spoken to him a couple of months ago, and I told him what I was doing. I've obviously expended a lot of money with surveyors and other costs that I've had on this, I've actually offered to talk to him and show him the plans, and he didn't have time to see me. I actually took my plans and I put them in the mailbox, and I heard from him the first time Monday afternoon at 3 o'clock. Okay, I've been through a lot here, and now I understand. Someone is saying, well, is there something that you can do to change it? I mean, this is something I've been thinking about for 34 years. I mean, I was here in September of 1981, and it was approved. And as far as I know, basically nothing else has changed. And I guess what I'm concerned about is I don't know what it is that I'm being asked to do to change, and I don't know what Mr. Farley is going to do. He's come in here at the last minute, and he's objected. Other people have not objected. And so I don't know what Mr. Farley wants or what he expects or what the board is expecting, and I'm certainly glad to hear what it is.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. The question was, are you ready to request a deferral now? And it sounds like you're not. So the board will deliberate among ourselves and see if we have a motion for approval, denial, approval of something different, or deferral.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Just wanted to know if you were ready to just defer for a while or not.
I don't see the benefit of it because
Thank
I
you
have
very
a feeling
much.
that Mr. Farley's going to come back and he's going to complain about whatever I do. So
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Freshman.
I think it's not too often that we have stark differences between neighbors like this, and the timing of the issue or the complaint, whatever, is really not our concern. I think that having lived in a similar house, having lived on a similar lot, the problem with the shape of the lot and the setbacks from the existing house is a given, and there's only so much you can do to mitigate that. I certainly appreciate wanting to have a spacious enough addition that the uses that you contemplate are accommodated. But the fact is that it is for this particular site with these constraints, it's a large addition. It may not seem large in the terms of the uses that you contemplate, but it is. And if we're a rectangular lot, a lot would be different. So I think that, it's unfortunate, but I think that, and I don't know how the rest of the board feels about it. I feel as if there might be a way to adjust the addition, not that it may please your neighbor, because your neighbor may never want to look at a two-story addition, regardless, even if it was just the porch footprint. But that's part of living in urban America. Sometimes people build things near you and you don't like looking at them and, oh, well, that's it. So as I say, I don't know how everybody else feels about it. I feel as if, given the circumstances of the shape of the lot, that it's too large an addition for the lot and the circumstances, maybe not for the uses you contemplate.
Mr. Sujak, could you sit down, please, sir? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Smith,
let me try a motion.
please.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals in V-10995-15-UP1 permit a setback of 6 feet to the eave and 7 feet to the wall, in other words, 1 foot less, for a new two-story addition from the right side property line instead of 10 feet as required, and aggregate side yard of 10 feet instead of 18 as required. Regarding, actually, the aggregates are different, but in other words, 6 feet to the eave and 7 feet to the wall. Let's see if I get a second for kind of a compromise.
I'd like to have a discussion.
He's got to get a second first.
Is there a second?
11.
We don't have a second.
I'm willing to second for the sake of discussion. I may not
Okay.
support the motion, but I'm happy to discuss it.
Thank you. So this motion has been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Ms. Malice. Now, some discussion, Mr. Melnick?
Okay, so with all due respect to the motion and the second, I personally don't think a foot is going to make much of a difference here when we're talking about the type of addition that is being submitted. My thoughts about this, as reflected in the staff report, is it's already modest. It's not a big addition, and in the chart showing the surrounding side yard setbacks, it's very similar, because I think it's rather common to have small yards. But I do agree that pushing it forward, it's already being pushed forward, and I think pushing it forward further would make it look odd, and it wouldn't improve the look in the neighborhood. So just all things considered about the modest nature and the fact that there are similar setbacks or similar encroachments and whatnot in the area, I'd be inclined to support it as advertised.
And Mr. Chairman, I would too, Mr. Melnick, but I'm trying to gain some traction with some of my colleagues who don't sound as inclined.
Mm-hmm.
Any further discussion on this motion? We have a motion on the floor. It is to approve a use permit request with a setback of 6 feet to the wall and 7 feet to the eaves.
Well, Mr. Chair, let me say, I will withdraw my motion, and I imagine that the person who seconded it would also, if there would be a substitute motion that I might second.
I'd be glad to hear a substitute motion if somebody's got one.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Melnick?
Okay, well, I would move that the Board of the Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting the use permit V-10995-15 UP1, subject to the conditions listed in the resolution.
I withdraw my motion and would second the substitute motion.
The motion on the floor has been withdrawn. We have a motion by Mr. Melnick, seconded by Mr. Smith, to approve the use permit as requested by the applicant. We have any discussion? At this point, I guess I would say that I would not support this motion, given that it's, I think there are alternatives that can respond to some of the issues that have been raised, and therefore I don't see that the original request is something that I could support because there's some alternatives. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Or no, yes. 3 noes. The motion to approve as requested by the applicant has been denied. Do I have another motion?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Malice.
I would like to make a motion in this case to deny the use permit in V10995-15-UP-1.
Do I have a second?
Could you repeat the motion, please?
I move to deny.
Deny. I'll second that.
Ms. Malice has made a motion to deny the request for use permit V1099515UP1. Ms. Freshman has seconded that motion. Is there any discussion on this one?
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Malice.
I would like to have a solution that allows the applicant to move forward on a project and maybe not by right, but given the circumstances, I don't see that we have an opportunity to craft that alternative right now. And so I have no other option but to support the motion that I made.
Any other discussion? Let me just say that I think that something can be designed that moves this addition forward if you want it that big. I think that the small room on the back could be left off and the access be from, I believe it's the living room to the family room. I think it can be moved forward. I think the driveway can be adjusted to accommodate that, and a 2-story addition built as a matter of right, or possibly have been one that had a lesser request for a use permit. So that's been my issue with this. I think there are solutions. I would go, if I could, I would seriously look at by right, which could result in a 2-story addition on that side of that house without any need for a use permit request from the Board of Zoning Appeals. With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Good. Motion to deny carries 3-2. Thank you very much.
Have to be consistent.
Okay. Our next case tonight is V-10996-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Tomasz Bonaszkowski and Agnieszka Kupiak-Bonaszkowski to permit a setback of 4.7 feet to the eave and 5.3 feet to the wall of the addition from the left side property line instead of 8 feet as required. Also an aggregate side yard of 16.8 feet instead of 18 feet as required. It's for the construction of a new 1-story left side and front addition. It's in our 6th zoning district. Premises known as 5705 15th Road North.
Does the board have any questions of the staff? If not, could we hear from the applicant, please?
Tomasz Banaszkowski, I'm the property owner.
The dais can actually be raised.
Oh, okay. Now it's,
You can push a button on there and it'll come up.
Just hold it.
Hogan, I'll help you real quick here.
okay. Wow. This is my first
Step
time
high.
here.
Bring it up a foot.
Yeah.
Keep coming, keep coming, keep coming.
They're not very sensitive, so, or they're not very sensitive, so
much closer
you
to
have to
your
really
face.
talk into them.
Okay. Thank you very much. Really, on the right-hand side, the current structure is how it was mentioned before. It used to be a screen porch, which was enclosed long time ago. I think it's over 15 years. So it's not only that the structure aged, but the beginning was done not with well-insulated, especially floor. The screen porch is above the ground, but the problem with crawl space is that is The ground is on the slight slope, so you have the difference few inches. So on one side is like 2 inches, on the other one is about half of a foot. The insulation from the floor is gone. It used to be chicken wire, and animals took whatever left. So basically during wintertime, summertime is unused. The only way of heating is a small electric heater on the wall, and the windows are probably old. So we having a problem because since the screen porch was converted into like a den sunroom, the door has been created with no really door. It was like an opening to the house, which looks beautiful, but we're having problem with exchange of temperature, especially winter time and summertime. So what we're trying to do is basically rebuild it as it is. Now, since my activity is mostly on the first floor, I cannot use the wheelchair over there because it's a little bit too narrow. If we would go with that few feet, I could move my office over there, and that would be much more comfortable. And this is the only really place in my house when you can see the natural light. The other part of the house is slightly in the shade. So living room is very dark, and dining room also is not much. So this is the only place which we like to be, but stay, but there's a problem in extreme weather. So what we want to do is rebuild it properly on concrete foundation. So there's no difference. The same siding, it's just better windows. Roof will be the same, except slightly higher because of the new code designation for construction. So now the beams have to be slightly thicker than it was used originally long time ago. But basically, it's the same structure, no much change except slightly wider. And the front, as you see, what we want to do is just enclose the stoop to, first of all, in those older houses, you just directly get into the living room, and we don't like it much. We like to have the glass door, but safety is not there, and also exchange of the temperature is there too much. Plus, we will that way also create like a little bit of a mudroom when you can leave your clothes. So little bit of a storage. So we don't really ask much. It's slightly, it will look like it looks now. So it's not any additions. We just want to rebuild what is existing and enclose what is almost existing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board of the applicant? Any questions for the staff? I don't have any speakers for this item.
Motion? I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting use permit V-10996-15-UP1, subject to the conditions listed in the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Mr. Smith. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Our next case is V-10997-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by J.R. Moore & Sons Incorporated to permit a setback of 7 feet to the eve of a new 3-story rear addition, a new 2-story addition above the existing home, and a new front porch with a 2-story addition above the porch, and 8 feet to the wall of the new 3-story rear addition, new front porch with a 2-story addition above, and a new egress window well, and then 13 feet to the deck from the rear property line instead of 25 feet is required. It's all for a new 3-story rear addition, a new 2-story addition above the existing main building footprint, a new 2-story addition over a front porch, a left side egress window well, and a new rear deck. This is in the R6 zoning district, premises known as 1702 North Cameron Street.
Mr. Applicant?
How you doing there?
Good.
My name is Jackie Moore. I purchased this lot in intentions on knocking this house down and actually building a new home. And I spoke to Mr. Andrew about it, and I was under the assumption that the back wall was the side yard. He informed me it was the rear yard. So I had to treat it as a 25-foot setback. So we sat down and talked about it, and he showed me what I could do. What he suggested I do, and I came up with a design trying to meet your needs and beautify my neighborhood, because right now that house is an eyesore.
For sure.
He does a lot of stuff. He's done a number of things.
All right, does the board have any questions of Mr. Moore? If you could hang out.
Yeah,
We'll-
no problem.
We'll may have some for you if you want to hang up close. Any questions for staff or Mr. Moore? I do have a speaker. Why don't we hear from the speaker? Laura Rogers, please, 4743 North 17th Street.
I have a copy of images.
Yes. How many do you have?
Oops, sorry.
That's all right.
My name is Laura Rogers, and I'm a resident of Woodlawn Waycroft that abuts the property that we're talking about. And I'm here today because I am opposing the construction of such a large, massive structure without any articulation. It has, to me, it is in gross contrast to not only the other houses in Highview Park, but definitely the houses in my neighborhood. So the first three images that you see there attached to my letter are the houses in my neighborhood looking back toward this huge structure. And the fourth image is the house that is about to have this supersized addition, as well as the house beside it. You can see some of the roof lines. And then the rest of the images are various kind of roof lines and the scale of the properties in Highview Park, which have a charm and a scale that is not consistent with this addition. So once you allow something at this scale, I know things continue to be built at this scale in this neighborhood. Once you allow this, it sets a precedent for all future development. I feel I have some right to judge in that my career path is as a designer with a major architectural firm in this city. So I feel very disappointed because the houses in my neighborhood and my immediate neighbors all were not consulted in this process. I think Mr. Moore got signatures from people in his neighborhood that were approving it. So I got 5 signatures of people in my neighborhood who about the property line who disapprove it. Whether you need our approval or disapproval to move forward, but I will say this, that if it's really about doing something that's of an appropriate scale and massing, this is not it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any board members have any questions of the speaker?
What is your address?
4743 North 17th.
Got it. Thank you.
Ms. Mouse, did you have a question? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Ms. Smith? Mr. Smith?
Is that a brick
Yes.
wall that's behind your property?
That wall is on my property, uh-huh.
Okay.
Brick wall.
And it looks like it runs the almost half the length of the block?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not correct on the plat, but it's...
But it looks like, and you've seen, this is your submission. It lacks an address. Are you which home is yours? I'm referring to the plat.
Yeah, it's directly behind it. Let's see.
Is it that one?
Is it like- is it-
Maybe you can mark it with your pen?
Yeah, it's this house right here.
Okay, all right. So from your house further, I don't know whether that's north-south.
It's further north. I'm looking north.
With that wall extends all the way. Okay,
I don't know how far down the street it is.
okay. All right, thank you.
I have a
Ms.
question.
Malice?
I have a question for staff. I need some help breaking this down. We're asked, the use permit has to do with setbacks,
That's correct.
not height,
That's correct. They're within the permitted height limit.
within the permitted height. So the issues that the speaker is raising, some of which are not really part of the matter before us. In other words, we're not ruling on how tall this structure could be.
That's correct.
What we're going to talk about is relief on the setbacks that would have some effect on the massing, but not on the height.
Exactly.
Thank you.
I have a question for the staff. The page there's a page with the plat that shows the buildable area in yellow, and opposite it is a depiction with it says one-story, and this is part of the plat, but it says one-story stucco and frame house with basement that measures 30 by 24, essentially. But then there's a porch on the front, and a porch or deck or something on the back. Is this what I'm getting confused. Yes, Mr. Moore is proposing to put that, what I'll call addition on the back and a deck and then the addition is 2 stories. However, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the 30 by 24 section, he could go straight up without
an
a
eave,
use permit.
as long as he had no eave overhang.
2-story house there to a
Could have a 3-story house even.
30. Well, I know, we keep talking about stories. What we need to talk about is 35 feet to the
35 feet,
midpoint of a
exactly.
pitched roof, or 35 feet to the top of a flat roof. In addition, in terms of height and whether there are 1-story or 2-story houses in the neighborhood, many of the houses in both of these neighborhoods could add second stories as a matter of right, without any use permit approval from this body.
That's correct.
Thank you. And one further question, let's see, I'm sure you have it in here, but for the audio record, this line on this triangular lot is a 25-foot rear yard.
Yes. The extremely long line measuring 198.91 feet, that's a 25-foot setback offset from that entire line.
And if you're looking at the plat, the right side is a side yard.
Correct.
Which can be, well, in this instance, it could be 8 because he's proposing to go, no, that doesn't make any sense either. There is some distance on this towards the side yard that he could add or not.
Yes, he could add 3.8 feet to the right side of the home.
Let's see, if I look at the yellow one, that is, so there's a little bit towards what I'll call the front of the house and a little bit to the right.
5.8 feet if he uses that as his 8-foot setback.
Mhm. So there's a considerable addition that could be placed within the buildable area on this house. Require some designing, but as well as going straight up in the areas where there's existing encroachment. What is the construction of this house? Is it cinder block? Could you speak to us a minute about, have you done any, do you know if that structure that is there you could go straight up on it and meet the building code?
It's old. It was built in back in the probably 30s, 20s or 30s, and it's a cinder block house, so it probably could hold another level.
Well, that's what you're requesting to do anyway.
Hold 2 more levels, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's strong enough.
Mhm.
But I mean, for me to go over 5 feet, then I'm gonna have to, tear out 2 sides. What I was trying to do is just leave the 8 feet, use the other side, the back wall side, for the 8-foot setback. That's what I was trying to maintain, 8 feet off of that wall. As she said, she on the back of her wall.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, right now, the house is only gonna be about 27 feet high. It's nowhere near the 35-foot legal level.
Thank you. Any discussion or thoughts by the board? Mr. Melnick?
Yeah, I'm struck by, the area that could be considered for construction within the permissible setbacks, and also, just the ability to go vertical on this within the walls, and that would ameliorate the problem. And so those are my thoughts. Just that it just seems like there's a lot of other options here.
Other board members or a motion?
Mr. Chairman, let me just try to get clarity. The existing foundation is going to be used. But there would be, you're proposing an addition on the front, for a porch area,
It's just gonna be a porch area on the front.
then an addition on the back that,
It'll go back 14 feet, but I will keep the 8 feet clearance off of the back wall. So I will come back 4 feet.
well, and right now it's 10.
Yeah, it's 10 feet there, but I was trying to maintain 8 feet. So when I come back 4 feet from the left side of the house, I'm only gonna go back 4 feet. Then it'll cut in 4 feet, and then it'll go back 10 feet. So it's a total of 14 feet I'm adding on to the back of it, which, I mean, you really can't see that big cinder block wall there. I mean, that wall's been there for 100 years. It used to be a segregation wall.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Freshman?
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Yes.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting use permit V-10997-15-UP1, subject to the conditions listed in the resolution.
Second.
A motion has been made to grant the use permit as requested by the applicant by Ms. Freshman with a second by Mr. Smith. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. Thank you very much.
The next case tonight is V-10998-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Glenn and Joy Tobin to permit a setback of 3 feet to the eave and 5 feet to the wall of the addition from the left side property line instead of 12 feet as required. Also 17.5 feet to the eave and 19.5 feet to the wall of the addition from the 26th Street North right-of-way instead of 25 feet as required. And finally, an aggregate side yard of 15 feet instead of 24 feet as required. It's all for the construction of a new one-story front addition with a garage. It's in the R10 zoning district, premises known as 2944 26th Street North.
Any questions of the
Yes.
staff? Ms.
So,
Freshman?
am I reading this that the difference between the request and your recommendation is just a smaller eave?
That's correct.
Everything else is as is? Okay, thanks.
That's 1.5 feet on the eave, right? On one, 2 feet on the other eave. Could we please hear from the applicant?
Good evening, and thank you all very much for your time this evening. What we're trying to do is we have an existing one-car garage that is largely unusable because of the way that it's positioned against the house. And so we're trying to turn it to the street so that we can have more access to the garage, but also then to expand it to 2 cars. And it's a relatively small cul-de-sac, so this actually helps from a street parking perspective. And I have signatures from all of our neighbors as we've been putting together the plans and consulting with them. And apologies that I didn't have it ready when you needed to make your staff recommendation, but I can provide this to the board.
Thank you.
One consideration regarding the recommendation on the eave is that the house, kind of by design, actually has relatively wide eaves in all other parts of the structure. And so from a design consideration, that's why we were proposing to do the 2 feet. And because we're moving the garage away from the property line a little bit, the eave is actually not encroaching any more than the existing eave does today. So it's really largely the same distance from the property line as the existing eave is today. And so that was the logic that we followed in terms of trying to both balance the setback requirements as well as the architectural style of the house.
Thank you. Any questions of the applicant? Any questions or thoughts or a motion?
I'd like to clarify.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an existing eave that is already at 3 feet?
We're not sure where the existing eave is because it's not shown on the plat, but the actual garage itself, the wall of the garage is already at 3.8 feet, that existing garage. So I would assume if there's a 1.5, 2-foot eave, it's a lot closer than that. 1.8 feet, something like that.
So your proposal is setting things back further than the existing condition?
They're asking to actually move the wall back further in general, but we would like them to cut the eave back.
I'd like to make a motion.
Please.
Okay. So I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting the application as advertised in case V1099815 UP1.
Second.
The alternative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly, the alternative. The approval is advertised.
Okay.
And that would be with the conditions.
Yes,
in
that's
the
correct.
Alternative resolution. So approval has been moved by Mr. Melnick and seconded by Mr. Smith. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
The next case is V-10999-15-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Andrew Rude and Robin Tilsworth to permit a setback of 3.7 feet to the eave, 4.7 feet to the new addition from the left side property line instead of 10 feet as required. And finally, an aggregate side yard of 11.5 feet instead of 18 feet as required. It's for a new second-story addition above an existing left side enclosed porch. It's on a premises known as 2810 Key Boulevard.
Any questions for the staff?
Same thing?
Yes, this is Eve only difference in the staff recommendation and the request. although we are asked to approve a new addition with some relief to yards. Applicant?
Good evening. Thank you for hearing our case. We would like to, we've got the same eave issue. We'd like to keep the structure of the house looking the same, so the eaves are the same instead of truncated a bit. And also, currently there's this, let's see, how should I say this? Amazing skirt on the side of the house, and it goes out as far as the eave would. So it is really no difference from what it is right now.
Are you Robin Tilsworth?
Sorry, yes, I am Robin Tilsworth.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions of the applicant? I have a speaker slip here that her architect is here if we have questions for him. John Lina. Or Lina.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Smith?
I am inclined to move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached resolution granting the use permit as advertised with the conditions that are described in the staff report.
Is there a second?
Second.
Approval of the request as advertised, subject to the conditions recommended in the staff report, has been made by Mr. Smith and seconded by Mr. Melnick. Any discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And the next case tonight is V-11.
Needs an explanation.
No.
The alternative
As requested by you.
What you were seeking.
Okay, the next case is V-11000-15-UP-2. This is a use permit request by Mike and Carrie O'Sullivan, and this is to permit a 6-foot-tall fence within 3 feet of the South Lowell Street right-of-way instead of a 4-foot-tall fence as permitted. Construction of a new 6-foot-tall fence. This is in the R6 zoning district. Premises known as 3416 17th Street South.
Any questions for the staff?
The fence is already there, right?
There is an existing fence. They would like to replace it.
They want to replace it. Okay.
And place it across the driveway as well, right? Did I understand that?
I believe so, with the gate.
Gates.
Mr. Chairman, and my question is, does the proposed fence extend as far to the front yard as the current fence does? I'm looking at the...
It looks like it does on the existing plat. I think the applicant would probably have to answer that. It does look like it, though, on this plat. You can see the outline of the old fence underneath the red.
Ms. Williams, do we have a street level picture where, rather than somewhere we can just... This next one, I think, is... No, the one between... That one. So it goes to the front of the chimney presently.
The picture that has me confused is this one.
That's not their house.
That's not their house. That's why I'm confused.
I was confused about these pictures, too.
That's not their house.
I think that's showing other fences in the neighborhood.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's like a couple of doors down.
Okay,
It's
all
on the corner,
right.
I believe.
Well,
Well, we'll call you in a minute, please. Thank you.
okay, so this is a case of,
Yeah, I think this is the existing fence.
that's the existing. So the dimensions of the new fence match the existing?
Asking the staff, yes. Mr. Knoxon?
I don't know what the exact measurement of the existing fence is. I would assume it's a 6-foot fence.
But in terms of placement,
Exactly, right in the same spot.
just a question of height at this point?
Actually, probably more on their property. The existing fence is off their property by, maybe about a foot at one portion towards the front.
So it's been brought in?
Sorry?
The proposed fence has been brought in?
Correct, just to be completely on their property line.
Okay, I'm sorry. Now for the applicant, please. You can state your name for the record. Yes.
Hello, I'm Carrie. This is Mike. Thanks for hearing our case. But you're correct. We just want to, we just remodeled our entire home, so now we're doing the exterior landscaping, and we'd like to replace our existing 6-foot fence in the same location with a new fence, but we'd be extending the fence in front of our driveway, because right now our driveway is not enclosed, so we want to enclose the driveway portion to our yard.
And I'd ask the question, are you running the fence down the back line on the other side of the driveway too? What I call the back line, you know what I'm saying, down beside the garage between you and your neighbor?
Yes.
You are?
Correct.
Yes. Okay. Anything else to tell us?
I'm sure, I think it's in the packet. We have all of our immediate neighbors have agreed to this along with our civic association. We've also owned the property. This is our 17th year. So the fence has been there. We just want to now beautify the exterior now that we've redone the whole addition and siding to our home.
And I'd ask the question, is it going to, this is going to be wood?
It is.
Will look natural and weather, whatever?
It will, and there is a picture of the design. We've got an architect that took care of the landscaping, and he designed the fence as well.
I saw the plan in the staff report.
Yep, that's it.
And I read what it says, pressure-treated wood, but
Cedar.
I want it cedar. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Malice?
Just wanted to clarify, staff says it's not going to be in the same place,
It can't be, right.
that your fence is going to be moved in closer to your house.
And the movement of that is minor, just based on where the fence was when we purchased the house 16 years ago. So it's just now being moved in to conform with the property line. But for all intent purposes, it'll look like it's in the same spot.
Okay, and that's 1.5 feet that's being moved in?
Sorry?
Being moved in about 1.5 feet?
I think a foot at most.
Foot, okay.
Showing the existing fence is off about a foot right towards, more towards the intersection.
Additional pictures, I'm not sure.
We have to keep them if you give them to us. These days it is. Just go home and print more, right?
Jerry? Is there a sidewalk under the snow? Is there a sidewalk?
There's no sidewalk on the side.
Okay, so by replacing the fence, you propose to put it on your property line as opposed to 3 feet off your property line, which is what's required and what the staff is recommending.
Correct. Where the fence sits today, it's 3 feet. Well, it's the way it is. There's no sidewalk, but there's a 3-foot difference of space between the curb from the street and where the fence sits today. There's a 3-foot space, so it's not right on the street. So, but our property line, the fence sits right on our property line, or is off about 8 inches or so.
And essentially, the architect had just recommended that we upgrade the fence. There are a number of spots where just there was too much mulch up against it, and it's rotting, and it's just, I mean, especially on the one side of the house, it's rotted out in a bunch of spots.
Is there a sidewalk on the other side of the street?
We're on a corner lot, so no, just the front of the house, but not on the side on South Lowell.
Well, I mean, I only belabor that because you'd have a problem if the sidewalk ever went in, because you're on the line and not 3 feet in.
Mr. Melnick?
Andrew, could you back up one photo just to show the side?
One.
Yeah, so I see that gap there between the roadway and the fence, and so it's hard to tell in the winter, what's there. But it looks like there's some bushes, and is there mulch or?
Yeah, there's actually the photos that I took today, actually, because the snow has melted. But there are some. It's mostly mulch right there, and we have a couple of bushes on the end. But we're redoing some of our landscaping, so that may change. But right now, it's just mulch between the fence and the curb.
Because my question was just in light of, I assume this is, it's mainly for aesthetics, and so there's not too much of a harsh boundary, if a fence that's high is right next to the road and whatnot. But is your plan to do more, shrubs or bushes to soften the fence against the road?
Yeah, we actually can provide, should I show the landscape design?
Yeah, we brought the landscape design to show what we're putting there, but we are putting some more trees and shrubs that will go on the inside of the fence line and the outside of the fence.
Okay, thank you.
This one I do take back.
I do too. The code says really.
This is the side that we're talking about.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So this is pretty extensive.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Smith?
I've got a question. The crepe myrtle that's inside of the fence, if the fence had to be moved, would that crepe myrtle be impinged?
No. It's far enough in. I think it's about.
But if you had to move the fence in 3 feet,
Oh, yes, absolutely.
and that crepe myrtle is how many, it was there when you bought the house, probably.
It's been there a while.
Okay. I have a lot of experience with crepe myrtles trying to move them, and
Here, I don't know if they want to see it.
they are going to put stuff along there and in front. Do you want to see this?
No. I followed the conversation.
Okay.
And 1,700, Mr. Chairman? And 17.
Ms. Freshman?
The picture that we're looking at now shows a fairly generous side yard, and I find it unpersuasive, I guess, that replacing the fence, with all due respect to the crepe myrtle, should be so close to the street. I don't think that would be permitted in most places, and certainly not in a neighborhood where there might eventually be a sidewalk. And so I think if maybe there were mitigating circumstances like hardly any side yard or something, that'd be different. But I do think, and particularly if there's a proposal to put vegetation outside the fence, then it's literally on the curb. And so I think that there's flexibility to follow the recommendation of the staff, and that would be my preference.
May I ask a question? I'm still struggling with how wide that space is between the existing fence and that curb.
It's 3 feet.
It is 3 feet.
Yes.
So if the property line were at the curb rather than essentially at where the existing fence is, it would be back 3 feet, and this fence would be allowed as a matter of right in this location. Am I correct on that, Drew? Mm-hmm. So effectively, visually, it's where the fence would be if the county hadn't, already set aside area for, they'd place their curb there. So it looks like what it might look like on a different piece of property, but in fact, the county ownership, or the right-of-way, I should say, goes up to where the existing fence sits. I thought it was more than a foot or two. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Malice?
Am I correct that decisions like this can be influenced by the circumstances of the immediate street? In other words, this decision might be different if this street were not a cul-de-sac but a main road?
Well, I defer to the views of my colleagues. I think that's
I'm searching for history, rather, because...
Well, then that falls to Mr. Smith,
Yeah.
unfortunately for him.
I personally, I would view it differently, obviously, if it were a cul-de-sac, and if it were closer to the corner, obviously, I would.
So those kinds of factors can be taken into consideration? Or is it strict? Because the fact that it's I'm not sure that I would support this if this were a main road, but the fact that it's a cul-de-sac and the neighbors don't seem to object makes it, influences me to be more inclined to support this, but I don't know what our authority or scope is in how consistent we have to be, because I wouldn't find this to be particularly appealing if it was in the front of the house, or if the side yard were turned around.
Well, and I'm also persuaded by the fact that it's been there for a long, long, long time.
And I would add this, that corner lots are different from interior lots, and that being that a fence of this height can extend to within 3 feet of the public right-of-way. A setback for construction on this side for a house and so forth is 25 feet. And it's only these corner lots that are allowed to encroach with a 6-foot or even 7-foot fence, I believe, to this far.
6 feet.
Don't
6
let
feet.
me confuse the issue. In other words, if this was the front, it would be 4, and it could go to the property line. So fences are difficult at best, and so there is some allowance in the ordinance for the fact that corner lots have 2 25-foot setbacks with regard to fences. Now, we have non-conforming fences that were probably built without permits that are on property lines, on major roads, on places like that. And
Can I ask another question?
please.
Does the cul-de-sac have a sidewalk on the other side? No sidewalks on either side. Yeah, the other issue here is, the likelihood. If this was a spot where it was likely that a sidewalk would be built, you'd have a different condition, because it would be very difficult to construct a sidewalk up against any fence. Because the part of it is the placement of the fence. The fence is put right against the right-of-way line. But in this case, it's unlikely that this cul-de-sac, maybe your neighborhood's different, but would be a priority for building a sidewalk. And that's another situational. I assume your neighbors are not petitioning to have a sidewalk built on the...
All of our neighbors, especially in the cul-de-sac, have been there longer than us, and it's never been brought up.
As a matter of fact, they added in a sidewalk on the other side of the street. This was years back.
On 17th.
It was inquired as to whether they were considering sidewalks in the cul-de-sac, and we were told no. So unless something has changed.
Right. That's just a risk that you would take if someday...
Yes, if we granted a variance that placed the fence on the property line, if the county came to put in what looks like their standard in this neighborhood, which is a planting strip and a sidewalk, they might pursue buying some buying some land off of you, therefore taking the fence and pushing it back. They also may, I don't know, I didn't notice how wide the street was as to whether they would have room to go into the street to get. They used to build the 3-foot sidewalks right behind the curb, and they don't do much of that anymore.
No, 5.
Mr. Melnick.
I'm definitely in favor of the resolution as advertised because, the length of time it's been there. Also, I think it'll, the attractiveness of the whole fence and the surrounding areas will be greatly enhanced. And also the outpouring of support, especially from the Civic Association. It looks like quite a few neighbors. So I find that very convincing.
Anything else from the board? I don't have any speaker slips on this. Anybody prepared to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Melnick.
All right. I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the alternate resolution granting the use permit V11000015 UP2 with conditions as shown.
Is there a second? A motion has been made by Mr. Melnick and seconded by Ms. Malice to approve the use permit request as requested by the applicants, subject to the conditions in the alternative resolution. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Carries 4-1.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We have a case that we deferred to the end of the meeting. No one's here that you can see. We already called it. I don't know that we need to formally call it again. It is V1099415 UP1. Perhaps a motion to defer?
Move to defer to April 15, BZA.
Second.
Deferral to the meeting of April 15th, 2015. A motion's been made by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Mr. Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries 5-0. That concludes our cases for this evening. Thank you all who attended and are still here.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
given your temporary nature, I'd move that the Board of Zoning Appeals, let me withdraw that. I nominate, in light of your temporary the nature of your appointment being temporary, I'd nominate you for chair for the next term, which is 1 year.
Motion has been made and seconded to make me chairman of the Board of Zoning Appeals. All those in favor say aye.
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 And to fill that out, I'd nominate Ms. Judy Freshman as vice chair for this for the next term of office.
Is there a second? I second. It's been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Ms. Malice to make Ms. Freshman vice chairman of the Board of Zoning Appeals. All those in favor say aye.
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 And lastly, to provide for continuity of the board, I nominate Andrew Noxon as secretary to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Second.
Non-board member, and, but serves as deputy zoning administrator for the County of Arlington.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Smith and seconded by Ms. Freshman. All those in favor say aye.
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 I move approval of the minutes of February 12, 2015, actually. Correction.
Yeah.
As amended.
As amended for the date.
What does that say?
It says 14.
Oh, this is the 14th?
Second.
I didn't even know that.
The minutes of the meeting of February 12, 2015 have been moved for approval and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The minutes have been approved.
Who seconded that? Was it you?
Mr. Smith.
Smith.
I'm sorry, I didn't say.
Move adjournment.
Ms. Malice.
I don't know if you had any other business, but I had a request, or at least to put up for discussion.
Part of their business.
Part of our
Yes,
business.
please.
My being new, and perhaps Mr. Melnick being new, I wondered if we have ever sought a closed session with the county attorney to talk about what our role and authority and, sunshine laws and all the things that go with being a board member. If we've ever availed ourselves of getting counsel from the attorney. I know that in the Planning Commission and some of the other commissions we do, because in those commissions I know we operate under sunshine laws and we're restricted in terms of how we conduct ourselves outside of these meetings. And also, help with sort of understanding what, since the next level of appeal is the court, how we should conduct ourselves, or how we should make statements, or how we should explain our actions so that it's clear in the record if it should go further, what we were discussing. So my question, it was a request for question, was have we ever availed ourselves of this in order to sort of understand what our legal responsibilities are?
Well, my view is whether we have or not, I believe we could.
Okay.
And I've sort of wanted that for the time that I've been on this board. I'll defer to Mr. Smith for his opinions, having been a long-time board member.
Yeah, and my experience has been that we have received advisement in written form with respect to our requirements under the Sunshine Law. The fact that three together constitutes
a quorum.
Well, not only that, but that has to be advertised. There has to be notice of two. And the law talks about ex parte communication, the kind that you can have and the kind that you can't. You can in general, but not with respect to specific cases or specific applications. But I join with Mr. Russell. That would be, especially in light of changes in the zoning ordinance that have been made, a number of them, and I understand we're going to get a complete package at some point in the relatively near future, and that I think there's legislation that was enacted that's on the governor's desk to be signed that will also change the burdens and the burden that we have to meet with respect to variances. So I would join in a request to have such a kind of briefing.
I'm not talking about an owner. I mean, it's perhaps convening in closed session a half hour before our next meeting, just to get questions out on the table, or whatever staff would think is workable.
Well, okay, Mr. Melnick had a question.
Yeah, I'm aware of the variance change in the state law, and I think and I'm unaware. I don't think there's opposition to it. I think it'll be signed into law. But I think we ought to time this, that if it is signed into law, that be included in the discussion. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, when that will be, I guess it's anyone's guess.
29th, I think, is his deadline.
Of March. Well, let me suggest this, that as a will of the board, we ask Mr. Noxon to work on setting something up with us about availability of county attorney. Also, there may be things that require or should be discussed in executive session, and others that don't have to be or cannot be discussed in executive session, and we want to make sure that was part of it. So whether we're able to do it at the next meeting or the meeting after, that if you could pursue that for us.
Certainly. And Mr. Chairman, let me with respect to executive session, I guess my feeling would be that it would be the kind of discussion that would not be an executive session discussion, because it wouldn't be discussion of a case or pending litigation or an appeal. It would merely be their... I beg your pardon?
It's not personnel.
Yeah, it's not personnel. It would be their take on what they think the changes mean, and their suggestions as to how to act such that, but not specific direction, because we don't actually take, they're not counsel to us. We don't take direction from the county attorney's office.
The county attorney is, I think that's a question for the county attorney, because, when we've done it with the planning commission, it's always been executive session. So planning commissioners can, sort of speak freely in terms of what their issues are, and that the attorney who is advising us has the attorney-client relationship.
That was part of the reason. That was
board appointments. This is a different.
That's why, so I don't, that's
we're
a question for the attorney in terms of, whether, to what extent there needs to be, executive session confidentiality, or if it can be an open session. That's a question I
Well,
don't know.
we're quasi-judicial. We're not under their, they're not counsel to us.
And that was the other question was, do we have counsel?
However, if we're looking for an opinion, they're available to us to give us their opinion on these things.
Oh, yeah, on these things, on the broad things. Specific cases, though, they
Right.
really only if
I think we know that.
Yeah.
And here's another thing I'd suggest. I'm sort of, I'm on the board of the, it's called Plan Virginia, which is the group that gives training for BZA and Planning Commission members around the state. Actually, the board I'm on is dissolving because the program has moved over to Virginia Tech, and those sessions will go on. They give well, the BZA training is a couple of days, let's say in March, and then you get this material and this instruction from a team of lawyers and professors and Indian chiefs, and then 2 or 3 months later, you come back again for another 2-day session, and you've had work to do and stuff, and that goes on. And I'd say most of the jurisdictions in the state either do that or require it. And Arlington never has, possibly partly because Arlington doesn't pay for it. So it's on your own dime. But it's a very, very good program and very well respected. They provide both for planning commissioners and for BZAs. I can pass on information to you all, and if you want to. And they're around the state. They did one in Leesburg, which would prevent having to pay for staying overnight. This past year. They usually try to do them in central Virginia and then maybe every third one in southwest, because even central Virginia doesn't suit people from the southwest. They live in Tennessee. So those are good opportunities to get instruction. I will tell you that I don't agree with everything they tell the BZA and the planning commissions as to, but 99% of it is very good. One of their instructors is Andrew McRoberts, who used to be a county attorney with Arlington. And another is Sharon Pandak, who was county attorney in Prince William for many years, ran for office down there. Most people in the state know Michael Chandler, who's the lead guy in this instruction. We often joke on the board that nobody knows what our board is when we mention it, but we say Mike Chandler's group, and everybody, oh, Mike Chandler's group. So around the state, so there's some good opportunity for instruction there, and I'll pass on information to you. But I've wanted to have some sort of session with the attorney present to help us answer questions and for us to have a discussion about what we do.
Interest is simply not to do anything that damages what our business, and by speaking in a way that may,